So welcome, this is Yin and Young, episode number 25. Today we have no guests, but we are going to catch up on things and talk about what's on our minds lately.
Yeah, sounds good to me. So anything on your mind lately, Dan?
Just the new TV season, mostly. I'm trying to catch up. Haven't been able to catch up because I've had house guests, so I can't watch a lot of shows.
Okay, like what shows have been piquing your interest lately?
I started watching Star Trek Discovery, just kind of so-so about that. Watched the Orville, still kind of so-so, but it's better than Discovery. Blackish just started, which is pretty good.
What
new shows? Huh?
Blackish started again, or?
Yeah, Blackish started, and they did a pretty good take on Hamilton with the first episode with lots of singing.
Oh, nice.
And,
okay.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money on set design, so it's kind of crazy.
I'm actually gonna see Hamilton later this month. You already saw it, right? Or later next month? Yeah.
Yeah, I did see it. I saw it in San Francisco. It was pretty good.
Dang. So wait, so the only reason you were in San Francisco was mainly for Hamilton, or?
Yeah, because
Wow.
Yeah, my wife really wanted to watch it, and her sister was able to get tickets. I think her sister went crazy as far as waiting online to get those tickets.
Oh my gosh.
She was clicking, and she got a bunch. She got like 6 of them or something like that.
Damn. Well, you can resell that. Yeah.
Yeah, my cousin's wife, she bought a bunch of tickets too for the LA show. She got 2 like really, really good seats that she was going to sell in order to fund the other seats. Yeah.
That you could. All right. Yeah, I guess there's a market for that. And I wonder if there's people you can pay. Like, did she wait in the virtual line, right? Not the physical line. Okay.
Yeah.
Virtual line. Yeah. Because I remember as a production assistant one time, or like as an intern one time, I had to go in line virtually for like some sort of, I think it was like to get some sort of registration of rooms or something like that, and it was just interesting. Like anyone who has a production house is basically, they have so many people and so many computers that they could, like, if you have a company, you could literally like employ your employees to like do that and just buy all the seats, I guess, or something like that. So I wonder if people do that. Yeah, I think there's probably some companies that like they buy out a bunch of seats and maybe they resell it. I don't know. I'm sure there's a market for that. Yeah.
I'm sure that's what happens with Barry's Tickets and Ticketmaster and StubHub.
Yeah. So that's cool. I just watched. So yesterday I watched me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. I think I texted you. I messaged you about it. And, I don't know. It got me kind of in a funk. I guess we can get into that a little bit, but I mean, we've talked about this before. We've talked about death. We've talked about regrets. I mean, and maybe I'll just go into maybe more detail, I guess, or more specific, if that's okay with you, or
totally.
Yeah, okay. I guess, where can I start the story? So one of the last times I met with my friend, what should I call him? Let's call him, I'm trying to think of a good name. Let's call him, let's call him Reggie, okay? My friend Reggie, all right?
Okay.
And so my friend Reggie, he was, diagnosed with cancer. It'd be back, 7 years ago from today. So, and he lived with it for 6 years, right? And like the last time where he was more fully conscious, I mean, the last time I saw him when he was on his deathbed, right? And I mean, that, I guess that's the best term for it. The hospital bed, and he was kind of going in and out of consciousness, but what was I gonna say? So, but before that, um, I before that, he we met like in January. I think okay, let's say January 2016 or late December 2015. Anyways, these times might be messed up, but I met with him. Like I said, hey, is it cool if I come over? He's like, yeah. And at that point, he couldn't really move much, right? So I just came down. It was Super Bowl. Oh, Super Bowl I think is December, right? Anyways, we're watching the Super Bowl, and like I don't. I know you and Theo, who was our last guest, you guys care about sports. I didn't, I don't really care about sports. So like when my friend who was in the bed, like he asked me, so yeah, who are you rooting for the Super Bowl? And I'm like, I don't really care. And I don't know. He's like, oh, because I was mainly there just to hang out with him, right?
Right.
Maybe I should have been a little bit more tactful about it. I don't know. Anyways. Towards that last time that I was talking with him, he mentioned that I should check out Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. He had downloaded it somehow, and he was trying to get it to me through a laptop, right? Is everything okay? It sounds there's like some sounds going on that side, or
I don't know. There's my dryer.
is that your dryer?
Yeah, let me close the door.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, continue.
Yeah. So, what happened was we were getting trying to get the file off his laptop. So we were trying to find his laptop. He's bedridden, so he can't really help. So he had to ask his mom to come over, and I was helping look for it. Eventually, we found the laptop, right? And then with the laptop, tell me, like, have you heard this story? Did I tell you this story before? Not yet.
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah. So, and we're trying to find. So eventually, we found the folder of his movies. So we found Me, Earl, and Dying Girl, and then I was trying to get it onto my USB stick, but for some reason my stick cannot read it. So I formatted it. I copied everything over, and then I formatted it with my laptop to like NTSF or a more legit, like a more another file system, and I still couldn't copy it over. And I was just like, oh fuck! And I was looking up online. So basically, the last moments that I had with my friend while he was fully conscious was us trying to like get this movie download onto my USB stick. And I was trying to he's like, hey, you should call up let's call him Stan. Hey, you should call up Stan and say, ask him, for help on. And I was like, no. I was really stubborn, I was like, no. I've worked for I worked for like a big Fortune 500 tech company before. I'm like, no, I can troubleshoot this. And I was like, hey, can I download like a software? He's like, no. And I'm like, please. And eventually he's like, okay, fine. Try to download software. Eventually I couldn't get the movie onto the stick. And when I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna probably buy it and watch it. He's like, okay, cool, that's fine. And then we just hanged out some more. I got some Jamba Juice, came back and gave him some Jamba Juice, and we hanged out some more. And then his mom came and hanged out, and I got the feeling like, you know what, I'm kind of over. When you have like a sick friend or something, like you don't know how long to stay, really, like before you overstay your welcome, I guess. Because I'm just like hanging out, so I'm like, okay, his mom's. And what's cool is like, I saw his interactions with his mom. Like before, when he was like fully healthy, like he wasn't like the nicest person to his mom sometimes. I'm sorry to say that about Reggie. He'd be like, "Mom, no, come on, just let me, we're just some friends or whatever." Kind of like that, like kind of like this. I've done that myself towards my mom a bunch of times, right? Like, "Oh, come on, mom," like when she's trying to nag me or something like that. But what was interesting is that their relationship, because like, it's kind of reverted back to like when you're like a baby, like you basically, she really has to care for him or else he will die, right? Because he's like bedridden and needs sustenance. So, and for some, what was cool is that towards that last moment is that he had this really warm conversation with his mom. They're laughing about something about the football, and I was just like, wow. And my friend would just seem like so much more mature. And I asked him, like, hey, is there, like, anything you want to do, like, do you want to, like, maybe we can film something? Like, I can film something, and you want to, you want to, and he's like, no, no, it's cool, don't worry about it. I don't really feel like I have anything really left to do. I'm like, so, I mean, do you think you're gonna beat this? He's like, I'm not sure, you know? Like, he was real talk. And, like, I asked him, like, kind of straightforward, and I don't know if this was the best question, but I was like, have you thought about, you know, preparation, right? Like, funeral stuff and what to leave, right?
Right.
And he was like, they gave me the papers, but I'm kind of too tired to fill it out, you know? I was like, okay, I mean, like, did you need someone to help fill it out? He's like, no, I mean, it's fine. Don't worry about it, whatever. So, and he's like, you know, I don't really have any regrets. And I was like, okay, that's cool, man. And I mean, so that I'm glad I had that conversation with him. And then I left, and then 2 months later, he passed away. And between that time, you know, I just saw, you know, I only saw that Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl like yesterday. And there's another movie about cancer. What is it? Fault of My Stars. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that one.
Is that worth watching? Is that good?
That one's actually a pretty good movie.
Okay.
It's definitely a girl movie because it's about love and stuff like that. You know, do you know the story?
It's about, like, I guess they both have cancer, and then they have like a trip together or something like that.
Yeah, because the girl.
No spoilers, but yeah.
What's that? Oh yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah.
She more or less kind of has like a bucket list. She has like this author she really wants to meet.
Yeah.
In person. And they try to go meet this guy.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's another movie, 50-50.
Oh yeah, so my friend and I, while he was still, you know, able, when 50-50 came out, he could still walk and drive and stuff. So we watched that together. And he had the same kind of cancer too. It was like Ewing sarcoma, right? So yeah, and I think that what's interesting in that movie is that he beats it, right?
Right.
Yeah. So maybe in my mind, I had this kind of, for some weird reason, even though I saw that my friend was very sick, he was very thin, he was bedridden, I was like, in some deep part, like some part of me really wanted to believe that he could beat this, that this is just transitory, right?
Right.
This stage, and you know, I should have, you know, and you know, getting back to the topic of regret, you know, I probably should have watched that movie, because like Me and Earl and the Dying Girl movie, because in that movie, it's not really a spoiler, but the girl's dying of leukemia, and basically someone gives him, the main character Greg, an idea that, oh, you guys should make a movie for her, and he really like struggles to make the movie. But I think maybe, so here's a couple ideas that, so like, why did my friend want me to watch that movie? I mean, I thought maybe, oh, now that I watched it the other day, it's like, oh shoot, maybe I should have made a film for him or something. Maybe, but the thing is about my friend Reggie is that he's not needy, you know. He never really, he's always a very giving person, you know, like with like the Christmas presents and stuff. He was always like very thoughtful, but he himself never like seemed to ask for much, right? It was always like he didn't want, like we threw, like we had like these yearly Christmas parties at his place and hanged out with him, and he never really like he before, when he was well, he helped host it, right? And then when he wasn't well, like the other friends who were living up there, or because sometimes I was not, you know, living in that area, they'd say, hey James, can you make it out? And I remember like that year I drove up from Los Angeles to just basically just join the Christmas party and see him and my family, of course. But so what I'm trying to say is that so I don't know if it is maybe he was hinting like, hey James, maybe you should make a movie. Like, I don't think he was. Maybe he was hinting. I don't know. But another takeaway I think is maybe that a good part about that movie. And I don't know about Fault of Our Stars because that's a movie he watched as well. I guess it's like if you have cancer, like I guess you should watch all those cancer movies. Maybe it's makes you feel like empathetic or makes you feel maybe better. I don't know. But he told me also like check uh, maybe he's because in all these films I'm pretty sure 50-50 Fault of Our Stars and Me and Earl the Dying Girl, it's like how do the people who are not well, I mean the people who are well and able, how do they deal with someone that they love is not is terminally ill, I guess, right?
Right.
And that's kind of something like I always I think that I could have done a little bit more. After I watched that movie, I had to call my friend, my other friend Stan. He was there when Reggie passed away, and he the couple days before he told me over the phone, hey, yo James, maybe you should drive up, right? Because he went to the hospital because of he had an episode, and it was like Thursday he called me and said, oh, he's in the hospital. I'm like, oh damn. So I talked to my friend Reggie over the school chat, and he seemed okay. He's like, yeah, I'm good, it's fine. I'm like, yeah, because I was in class at the time, and I took the call because it's real, and I was like, I stepped out of class and I took the call. I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, hey, if you need me to drive up, I'll drive up now. He's like, no, don't worry. And then on Saturday, when I was getting like boba with some friends, my friend Stan called me and said, hey, you might want to drive up. I'm like, oh shit, because because I talked about it in the last a couple episodes ago, but the fucking Ford Focus, right? At this point, this car is like, it still moves, but I wouldn't trust it for like a long ass drive. But I freaking I did it. I drove up with that Ford Focus that night, overnight, and I got there around I left around like what, midnight-ish or something. I got there around 6-ish or something in the Bay Area. And this was coming from like San Gabriel Valley too, because I was in San Gabriel. So, but I was kind of like driving a little fast, but I was getting kind of tired. What kept me up was I was watching these videos about death by this one philosopher, Shelley Kagan. He's like, does this Yale talk. I just found it on YouTube. I was like, okay, might as well listen to this. And and he was talking about death in a very logical point of view or whatever. But anyways, the reason I share that is sometimes I have to remind myself that I did do things. I think that it always feels minuscule to like the eternity of death, right? It's like, how can we make this person a little bit happier before they pass, right? And I don't know. I mean, have you ever had a similar experience or anything like that? So to finish the story, I drove up, I got there, and luckily by the time I got there, he was still alive, and he was alive for a few more days, and he, like, one of the nurses there said to my friend and to us, is like, wow, this is like the most people like that I've seen a patient have before. This is the most visitors I've seen a patient have before, right? Because he had family there, for a lot of friends. Like, some of these friends, they don't even like hospitals. They came out to visit, right? And there were friends that hated each other that came and visited him. Like different groups, like high school groups, or different rivalries, or we all came out because he connected us, right? And I remember, right. And then he said, hey, I want to talk to let's call her Kate. He's like, I want to call Kate. I want to talk to Kate. I was like, oh shit, does anyone have Kate's number? And actually, I was the only one. I was the only one present at that time who had Kate's number. So I called Kate, and dude, my friend like Reggie, like what? This is like really speaks to his character, man. Like, he's like, hey Kate, and so I got Kate on the phone, and he's like, and I said, hey Reggie, here's Kate, right? And then and he's like, and she's like, oh hey, how's it going? She's a very cheery, bubbly person, right? And he's like, hey, it's hey, I just want to say that, hey Kate, I just want to say like you've been a really good friend, and because Kate was like in the Midwest somewhere, living there, or like living in the South actually, and she's like, oh well, I hope you get better. And then my friend Reggie, he's like, I don't know, I think this is it. Because before the call, he was kind of going in and out of consciousness, but when he got our friend Kate on the phone, he became like fully aware, fully conscious. Like, hey Kate, I just want to let you know that you've been a good friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they start chatting like, hey, it's been good. And then she wanted to talk some more, but he was getting kind of tired. And he's like, okay, all right, thank you. And she's like, thank you, I hope you're going to get better. And, so, but he knew. He knew. And then when I left late Sunday night, I was trying to make it back Monday morning. And then, Monday morning he passed. And I got the message. I was able to get home like late that night on Sunday night, early Monday morning, and I slept a couple hours, and then I checked my we had this group G chat going, and then my friend Stan was there, and he said, oh yeah, he passed. And I at the time I didn't really feel I felt kind of numb because I knew it was gonna happen for some reason. I like before I left, my last words to him was like, I was, I don't know, tell me what you think, but I was kind of like, I felt like I was kind of overstaying my, like, I said, hey man, I'll be back. And he's like, okay, he wasn't really, he was like, kind of like going in and out. And I was like, oh, fuck, I don't know what to do. So I said, hey, I love you. And I don't know, I kissed him on the cheek. I don't know if he liked that or not, but, anyways, and then that was my last thing to him, and then I drove down, and then the next morning he passed. And that day I went to work, and that night I went to class, right? So during work I was just like feeling kind of numb, like all that through that day I just felt a little bit numb. And then something hit me like as I was leaving work. It was like, oh shit, I can't really have much conversation. I can't really have a conversation with Reggie anymore. And what was great was that I told one of my coworkers who went through a similar experience, and I found out, and he really is like, hey man, I've been there. Like my friend, he told me a story about how he didn't invite a friend to a barbecue, and I think that friend was hurt by it because I guess there was other people in the group who didn't really want him coming or whatever, and then like that friend passed. Not too long after, and he really regrets that, and I was really glad that he shared that story with me. And then I just remember I was like on my way to In-N-Out because I didn't really eat that much all day, and I just started like I started like bawling, with that the idea is that, oh, never, right? I guess I don't know if you believe in the afterlife or whatever, but for the most part, in this plane of existence, whatever right now, how we live life, I'm never gonna have that experience and talk to this person again. Maybe in a different plane of experience, but who knows, right? Whatever. But like in this plane of how I'm talking to you, I'm never gonna have that again. And I was in the drive-through of In-N-Out, and I was just fucking bawling. And like the guy on the other end in the drive-thru was like, "Can I take your order?" And I'm like fucking crying. I'm like, "Can Can I get a can I get a double? Can I get a number one? Like no onions. Fucking. I was thinking, shit. Do I want grilled? I couldn't even think. I was like, fuck it. Let me get the onions. He's like, do you want? You want? Like, do you want onion? I was like, yeah. Just give me the onion. I'm crying, and yeah. So, yeah, that was that experience. I mean, so I took over for a bit, but like, I mean, have you had any similar experiences, or know people close to you that have had similar experiences? I guess, or
I mean, I never had a close personal friend pass away. I know that there was a junior high school friend. I knew him because all my friends from that 8th grade, they were a close knit group, but I was only there for a year, and I know that person passed away at age 35 from, I don't know if it was liver cancer or something to that effect, but I wasn't there. I wasn't close to him, and I don't know who he was the closest to towards the end, but yeah, the only recent deaths that hit me really hard was my uncle getting killed earlier this year, and that was only because it was so sudden. It was just very unexpected.
yeah, I mean, yeah. When you told me about that, I was just like, what? That's yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into the details, but the circumstances was just kind of insane, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
just to go over it very briefly, my uncle is part of one of those associations in Chinatown, one of those Chinese associations where a bunch of people just sit around all day and play mahjong. And this one young guy was part of this association at one point or another, came in looking for money, like more or less a handout from the president of the association. And I heard, I don't know all the details, but he apparently received some handout earlier, and he was like 30s, mid 30s, early 30s,
Yeah.
and he got into an argument with the president of the association. My uncle is like a really good friend of that guy, of the president of the association, and he just got into the argument with the guy, and the guy went to the kitchen, got a knife, and stabbed both the president and my uncle at the same time, and that was pretty much it. So
Yeah.
it just came as a real shock to the whole family because it was so sudden. It's not one of those things that you kind of expect.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this: things that I learned, or something I learned from this experience. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just one of those things that I didn't know about. But apparently, if your family member is the victim of a murder or of a crime,
Yeah.
to where it's like a critical, where they pass away or they get killed, the city will pay part of the funeral costs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's just one of those things I never knew about, and I didn't think I would ever know about, and I should, no one should ever know about things like that. But yeah, if your family member gets killed, that there's some money out there in case you need some help with funeral arrangements.
Cause yeah, wasn't that was in SF, right? Or I don't know if
No, it was in LA.
oh
It
shit,
was in,
LA Chinatown. Okay.
yeah, and then the association insurance covered part of the funeral costs as well.
I wonder if that's every major city, I guess, or I mean, I guess it seemed might be a federal thing, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just was some. I mean, no one should ever know that though. It kind of
Yeah,
sucks
kind of
to even find
sucks.
out about it.
Ugh,
Yeah.
that's tough. I mean, were you guys close or?
Um, I mean, we weren't the closest, but I remember growing up, he was always around. But
Yeah,
my dad's side of the family is pretty close in terms of like the uncles and stuff, and you just everyone's just all around all the time at some point or another.
yeah. I know. That's crazy. Like, um, yeah, I think for me the other for another death that kind of really hit me was my grandfather. I guess that was over 10 years ago. But I was just watching a movie the other day, like this short film about a son visiting his father, but the way it was an animated short, it's called 49天, like 49 days, because I guess in the Buddhist religious practices, I guess it takes like I have to research this, but like there's a certain ritual takes place 49 days after the death or something. Anyways, I was watching that. I was watching this animated short, and I just started crying because it's about a guy who didn't really take who didn't visit his father earlier, wasn't there much, didn't visit his father as much as he wanted to, or regrets that he didn't do so. And I just remember my grandpa, was, and he really, he kind of spoiled me, like he's a really great grandpa, and my grandma as well were really great. They helped raise me and then my grandpa got sick and he went to Taiwan. He had to go back to Taiwan. He got really sick. I remember the night he got sick. I was playing piano. I was improvising on piano, and I had this breakthrough. Like, oh my goodness! If I do something in the bass chord area with my hands, I can just play off the melody with my right hand, right? And it was, and I was like, "Well, this is fun, right?" And then the next morning, I there's an ambulance that came to our house, and then he had to go to the hospital, and then we had to visit him in the hospital, and it was just kind of traumatic, just seeing my grandpa, who like I always thought of this much, this very strong person, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, he's kind of like a samurai, kind of very stoic, but as a baby, he was very very warm and loving person. And yeah, so basically there was like this 8-year gap. It wasn't until I went to college and I had some money of my own that I went to go visit him again, right? This guy who, and I really regret, like, why not during high school or something? I should have made, like, it didn't have to be 8 or 10, 8+ years for me to see him again. I should have visited earlier, because by that time he was in a wheelchair and he was getting kind of sick. He's very frail at that time when I went to visit him. But for some reason, I kind of knew I had to, I don't know.
Yeah.
And a couple months later, he passed away. So I'm fortunate that I got to see him, right? And I remember my parents saying, "Hey, James, you don't have to really go see him. I mean, because it's gonna cost you how much money or whatever." And I'm like, "No, I kind of really want to go." And I had some of my own money because I was working part time, and also my mom was giving me some stipend for college. I was able to save up. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use this money and go back to Taiwan and visit him. And I'm so glad I did. But I and the reason why there was such a big gap was also because my family was going through some financial problems at the time, and so I think they couldn't really afford paying for me to go fly out there. I just there's reasons for it, but still I guess whenever I have regrets is always like, why didn't I do something sooner? Why didn't I do more? All these questions I say to myself, right? But kind of going back to one of our previous podcasts, I think one of the points you mentioned is kind of would I really do anything different if I had to go through the same situation, same circumstances again? I mean, I didn't know any better at the time, right? So, or I did, or the circumstances were not in my favor, right? Or, so I guess like at the end of the day, it's kind of like, my friend, I told after I watched me and Earl and the Dying Girl, I called him and told him my regrets and thoughts, and he's like, it's like hey man, I understand, I forgive, I'm sure, Reggie would forgive you, but I guess, and he made a really good point, was like, but I mean, your friends, we all love you and we'll forgive you, but I mean, you have to forgive yourself, you know? Yeah, and I was thinking about that. I was so happy. Like my grandpa, going back to my grandpa real quick. He wasn't like the nicest husband to my grandma. So sometimes he like because of his that kind of Asian patriarchy background. Somebody's like, hey, how come you should do that fast or whatever. But what was interesting is that like as he was he was in the wheelchair, my grandma could still walk at the time, and I remember I was rolling grandpa, right? And my brother, my older brother, was there with me. He came with me. He's walking. I think it's either him or my aunt was walking grandma, and my grandpa looked up to me. He had this huge smile on his face and said, "Hey, there's grandma." And I was just like, wow, like it's beautiful, cause yeah, there's like he had so much love for her, and I had a dream recently about my grandma, and I was in like my aunt's place where she was staying towards the end of her life, and I started hugging her. I said, "Hey, I'm glad you're here." And then I realized it actually wasn't my grandma. It was like someone that looked like her, and she morphed into someone like maybe like her sister, but I don't know if she has sisters. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not her." I'm like, "Oh, it's okay." And I remembered like my grandma a few years before passed, and I got sad, and then it's like, yeah, maybe I should leave. Like, it was a weird dream, but yeah. Yeah, seeing my grandpa just filled with so much happiness and love, and made, I don't know, made the trip worth it. Yeah. Like, are all your family members all healthy? Your grandparents still around, or did they pass when you were a kid or something?
My most of my grandparents, or all my grandparents, are passed away. My grandmother, the last living grandparents, passed away in 2008, and I
Okay.
couldn't make it to her funeral in China. But she had already had a stroke 6 years before that, and the last time I visited her was right after my other grandmother's funeral in Japan. And I went to my grandmother's funeral in Japan, and the maternal grandmother in Japan, she had already been diagnosed with cancer, liver cancer, and so I visited her like 6 months before she passed away, and then when she passed away, I went to go visit her again. And since I was in Asia, I think I made a trip over to China real quick to go see my paternal grandmother.
Okay. Yeah.
But by then, I mean, she had dementia. She was drifting in and out of or like in and out of reality, more or less. She'd go back in time and remember things that weren't relevant anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she could barely speak. But I just remembered my youngest uncle was always able to make her laugh by saying all these. He would speak in his crazy Shanghainese and say all these crazy things to my grandmother, and
Yeah.
he'd make her laugh. But yeah, I didn't get to see her, but she was definitely didn't have a very great quality of life after it, and she'd been bedridden for like by that time about 4 or 5 years.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so my family made the decision to send her to Shanghai because we could afford better care for her. It was just a matter of cost. My dad stayed out there. He quit his job and he just watched or looked after my grandmother, and that's what he did until she passed away.
That's good. She had someone there like to make her laugh and be with her. That's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was my uncle. Whenever he was in, he made every chance he could, every opportunity. He made a trip out to Shanghai just to visit her.
Yeah.
But my dad, I don't think my dad is like a very humorous guy. I mean, he might think otherwise, but he's not that funny.
Oh, yeah.
He's very offensive in his jokes.
Okay.
Which kind of explains why he's a Trump supporter.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Oh.
I called him out on it the last time I saw him. And my dad is he's filled with regrets. And he regrets where he's now. He regrets a lot of things and but doesn't take responsibility for any of his decisions. And I make a point to go visit him as much as I can these days because my dad, he's health-wise, he's totally fine. But, well, I shouldn't say that because he had prostate cancer last year.
Oh.
I think the radiation and chemotherapy treatments kind of fried his brain a little bit, so he's very forgetful.
Oh, wow.
In any case, I asked him, do you still support Trump? I mean, after, 9 months or 10 months of of this guy's presidency? And he goes, yeah, I totally support him. So, but we're talking about my dad who grew up he was born in the 40s and grew up in the 50s and 60s and still, he was willing to he was willing to retell a joke about Jews to a Jew that was told to him by a Jewish friend, and he thought that was okay for him to tell because his Jewish friend told him that joke.
Yeah, in college I made that mistake, and it was like a joke about, Nazi Germany. I'm not gonna say it now, but it did not go over well. Yeah, I guess that's a good rule of thumb. Don't tell a racist or a joke to that particular race unless you are of that race, I guess. Or yeah.
Well, it reminds me of the Seinfeld episode where his dentist became a Jew, converted Judaism to tell Jewish jokes. Do you remember that? Did you watch that show?
I watched it. It's always on TV, right? So growing up, I would catch an episode here and there. I never really stuck around to watch the whole season or anything. But I would sometimes it's on TV. I'll just leave it on and watch a few bits here and there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty good. I can still reference a lot of the topics that they discussed. I mean, they call it a show about nothing, but in the end, they had a lot of things that they discussed, like that whole the dentist become a Jewish, converting to Judaism in order to tell Jewish jokes, and Jerry Seinfeld was really offended because he's Jewish, but he thinks that the dentist converted to Judaism just to tell those Jewish jokes.
Yeah.
And nothing more. He doesn't really believe in the religion, but Jerry Seinfeld became labeled anti-dentite. So all the dentists wouldn't see him for a toothache that he had at the end of the day. That's
hilarious.
So yeah, my dad is that guy though. He tells really offensive jokes that are the butt of the jokes. To the people are the butt of the jokes, thinking that's okay because a friend told him.
I mean, did you? This might be personal, but do you feel like you've inherited that kind of complex, where you have a lot of regrets as well, or?
I'm sure I inherited a lot of it, but I think the way you deal with it is different. I tried. I mean, things are still going to come up every now and then. Decisions I've made in the past, but again, I don't think I would change anything if I went back to that time and made that decision with the information I had at that moment.
Yeah,
just don't know.
You don't know.
And
yeah,
it's not just information, right? But it's also you're making decisions based on cultural upbringing. Am I going to offend anyone? And I have to worry about relationships. Am I going to burn any bridges, things like that. So you make all these decisions in that vacuum of what you know right then and there, and based on how you were brought up, your thinking at least.
Yeah.
So, am I gonna offend anyone? Am I gonna ruin this friendship or ruin this business relationship if I do this?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's why I think it really comes back to like forgiving yourself, right? Because I was on this art show, and one of the sayings from the show was like, everyone is doing their best, right? So
Yeah.
if you really think about it, like everyone's doing their best with, I think Deepak Chopra wrote that everyone's doing their best with their current state of knowledge at that moment, right? And Aristotle said something similar, like as long as you try to operate with wherever you are at the best of your ability, then you have really nothing to regret. And also, like the best of ability is also like with your outlook on like work and or your outlook on like your value system, whatever, because and the thing is, I think it might be Asian upbringing. Like I always feel like I have to be constantly be productive, or I constantly have to be, do things right, this perfectionism, right? And then what happens is I end up procrastinating because I have that fear of not getting it right. Or like even this podcast, like I was like, fuck, I could have started this earlier, but I'm happy that we did it, and it's kind of the shape it is now because I did procrastinate, and that was part of my process, was like finding that point where the things match together, where I am in my life and my maturity, where I can put these things together, because there's never enough time, right, for to give what we want to give, and for our loved ones to receive that. There's never enough time for us to show how much we love them, or for how much like when my grandpa passed, like it really hit me hard, like I got the call from my dad, and he was very stoic about it. He's like, hey, grandpa passed, and but I could hear that he was hurt too, and he just hanged up, and I was just like, and I just started bawling. I was sleeping, right, and I just started bawling, and I couldn't control it, like. So with my friend, I don't know, maybe because I was older, this was years later, I was numb, and all of a sudden I just started bawling in the car. But at that moment when I was in college, when my dad told me, I just was like, fuck, and it's funny, I went to work that day as well. Maybe I should, like, whenever someone maybe I should take the day off next time. I don't I should probably, yeah, because I remember going to work, I was wearing all white, kind of like as a Chinese tradition, or Taiwanese tradition. Just I wore all white, and my friends asked me. I said, well, I didn't really want to get into it, so I just said, oh, I'm just felt like it, I just felt like wearing all white today. And I remember, similar, like going back to your grandma, my paternal grandma. So this is the grandpa and grandma I'm talking about are my paternal side. And the paternal grandma, she had dementia towards the end of her life. So I remember when I visited her towards the end of her life, it was good because I was living in Taiwan, for the last couple, after college. So I got to spend a lot of time with her, and I hear her stories about how her and grandpa met. It was great. And then when I left for the U.S. and then Australia, and then came back and visited, she was going through dementia, right? And that got me really sad. I wasn't like bawling sad, but more like, oh, she thought I was like a doctor she met like 50 years ago or something like that, And I was just like, oh, that's sad. And then maybe she'll have these flicker of moments where she remember, oh, you're James, and I'd be happy again, right? But it's catching those moments, and just like speaking to my grandma, just like her characters. Like I remember I was napping next to her, and at this point she had dementia, but I remember she made sure that, because we're napping in the same bed, it's a small apartment, and she made sure that she gave some of her blanket to me, even though it was hot. She didn't want to take up all the blanket. She'd make sure, even though I'm not even sure if she knows who I am, but she had such a sense of care, and she's like, oh, she put some blanket on me. I was just like, wow, this is my grandma's pretty awesome, So, she had a tough life, but I think what struck me was that she was always when she was with family and friends, like towards the end of her life, she was very happy and, very, warm. She lived to be 97, 98,
Wow.
Yeah, so she had a good life. And so for her, I don't feel as sad. I wrote, and I knew, this is crazy. I don't know if, I knew for some reason that this may or may not be the last time I saw her. And I don't know, this might be just me in my mind, because after the fact, maybe I'll make that connection, But I felt like, oh, damn. I extended my stay in Taiwan that one time, my last time seeing her, for an extra day. Because for some reason, I felt like, oh, I should stay an extra day. And I wrote this letter to her. And my dad was there in Taiwan visiting as well. And I said, hey, Dad, should I give this to Grandma, his mom? And he's like, James, this is maybe when you're in the U.S. you can send it, but like you give this to her now, it seems it's a little bit dramatic, right? I wrote this letter about how I really appreciated her as a kid growing up and stuff like that. I was okay. I was like, okay. So I went back to the U.S. and I spent more time on the letter. And I wrote it out in Chinese with my hand, and then I mailed it out to her. And I had this kind of urgency. I was living in Berkeley at the time, and my brother's like, "Oh, what are you doing, James? Like at night, I'd spend like an hour each night to write this letter, for like trying to translate, make it right and look nice." And he's like, "Oh, I'm working on this letter for Grandma." He's like, "Oh, that's good for you, man." And then I mailed it out, and she really liked it. It's basically saying, "Oh, hey, Grandma, this is I really appreciate you coming out to the U.S. Like, cause they spent like when they're 60s 70s, like they spent like 10 years or so of their life with me, right? Something like that. And they come to the US from Taiwan, that's not easy task, right?
Yeah.
So and I don't think I really show my appreciation to my grandma. She's just like, yeah, it was something I did, and something she chose. She it was just like, it's not a big deal to her. Like, it's more, well, I don't know. It's something she did, right? But I recognize that as an adult, how big of a thing that is for someone. So I wrote that letter, and she kept reading it, and my aunts showed me pictures of her reading it, and that really made me happy. I kind of want that with everyone that I know, and then she passed like a couple months later. But this is me being a perfectionist again. It's kind of like, what am I doing now? Like every time there's a wedding or there's like some sort of baby shower or whatever, I feel like I have this kind of desire now. And then ever since my friend passed, like I kind of want to, so I made like a video for my friend's kid, like, and for his baby shower. And then I made my brother got married recently, so I gave I wrote this wedding toast, and I delivered it. And I still feel like it wasn't enough, but like it was enough that it's kind of like I know this is crazy, right? But like you can die tomorrow, right? Or everyone can die tomorrow, right? But that's a hard way to live. You know what I'm saying? To live in that fear that I should do this because I don't know if it'll ever happen again, which is true, but I think it should come from a place of love and like something you want to do. And I think the place that I'm coming from now is that, yes, nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow's not guaranteed, right? It's not promised, but I just want to, whatever little I can do to make the people I love in my life just a little bit happier, or make their reality just a little bit above the mundane, or a little bit more magical. I think that makes me happy, right? And that's something I want to do. But I think if it comes from a place of, oh, I should do it or else I'll hate myself if I don't, which is true too. But I think that's more of like I'm holding a gun to my head, kind of what we talked about before. But yeah, I mean, how do you, you being the older of the two of Yin and Young, I mean, yeah, because you mentioned before you don't really care about a legacy, and it seems that you kind of just, if I can say for you, you just go day by day and you try not to think too much about things, I guess, or think about death too much.
Yeah, I don't worry. Not to say I don't worry, but I don't try to think about those things too much. That's true. I'm more concerned about the well-being of my kids, whether or not I can provide for them. Once you have kids, the thought process is things change. And one of my really close friends, he said that you don't really start becoming successful for a lot of people until you get married and have kids, because then you have something to work towards, not just for yourself, but you kind of work harder because of that when you have kids. And in lots of ways, it's true. I don't know if it's a Korean saying or whatever, but I found that to be true. And I think all my friends who have kids, once they have kids, it really does become about the kids. You're thinking about, oh, what am I going to do as far as where am I going to move to? I have to find a good school. What classes should they be taking? Music lessons, violin lessons, whatever. What other activities should I get them involved in to just keep them stimulated and not just sit at home and bored? But at the same time, I kind of think maybe sometimes they need to just sit at home and be bored and learn to be bored and just learn to entertain themselves, because in this day and age, I don't think a lot of people can do that anymore. Even I see myself. I'm always, when I'm standing in line, I have my iPhone or whatever, and I'm reading an article or going through Google News or reading a book, when I could just as easily just sit there and shut off. But I think I have to be better about doing that in front of my kids.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things where you just think about the kids. What am I going to do about the kids? What am I going to feed them tonight? What are they going to do for lunch? What are they going to do after school, etc., etc.
And do you think, I guess that's maybe that drive, I mean, that drive, I guess it's biological, right? Or like it's like you're the father, and it's yeah, you're this is the next generation. So like, but at the same time, I always wonder about this for new fathers and mothers, is that what about for their own self-development, their own personal goals? Do they still have, like, do you still have your own personal goals, or like now everything is kind of geared towards the kids, I guess, or there's no way they're fully separated, I guess?
It becomes one and the same, right? Because now your success also benefits them.
Right.
But on the flip side, I don't want to like sacrifice all my time to become successful at the expense of not spending time with my kids.
Right.
It's one of those balances, and it's kind of hard to do. Well, it's actually easy for me right now because I'm not having job offers left and right that require me to spend a lot of time away from my kids.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about, is that maybe I'm trying to think of ways for like getting more passive income, I guess, where I can go pursue my passion projects, and then hopefully when I do settle down, I do want to make sure that's really one of my fears, is that to pursue my passions, I have to sacrifice being there for my family or something, and I'm trying to construct a lifestyle. I mean, I've been reading some self-help books like 4 Hour Work Week, stuff like that, and I think there are models out there that can help you. But I also want to direct and create projects, and these go back to my list of regrets of like not making as much as, or not putting as much creative output as I could have up by now, I guess. But whatever. I guess I want to find a way where I can be productive, but also find that balance with family. And I don't know. It's I guess that's something you don't really learn how to do until you actually do it, I guess.
Well,
yeah.
There are a couple things, right? Yeah. You could just go hardcore right now while you don't have a family to worry about.
Yeah.
That will afford you the opportunities to spend more time with your family afterward.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know if it's true in some ways I kind of do, but I forget who said it. I don't know if it was David Cho or Kevin Smith,
Uh-huh.
but somebody said you're probably the most creative in your 20s
Uh-huh.
and early 30s, and after that, after a certain point, you're not as creative. I forget who said it. It's one of those guys.
Yeah, David
Maybe-
Cho and David Chang had a conversation like that before on DVD as a
And maybe David Cho then.
yeah. I'm
If
sure
you're
it
not,
sounds like something, there's a lot of people who say that because I guess you don't know any better, right, in your 20s.
But yeah, if you weren't busting your ass off in your 20s, then you kind of might have wasted that period of creativity.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel that, but at the same time, what I'm fortunate now is that some of the opportunities I get now is because of the connections I made when in my 20s, right? And this is the thing. You can always be going harder, you can always be busting your ass more. That's something I know, but I think it's finding that balance between rest and effort, right? And making sure you get the important things done because there's something about working super hard and spending all your time on something or working smarter, right? And hitting those more critical things, There's this is also going back to Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week, but like the 80-20 rules, like where's your top 20? Sometimes it could be even your top 10 or 5% of the activities that seem the most fulfilling and most productive, and focus on that, right? Versus all the minutia, and that's something I'm trying to be smarter about. I mean, even today I had the day off, and I felt like, I didn't, I relaxed today. I got some things done, but at the same time, like you said, like sometimes that's okay too. Like not getting hella stuff done. Like maybe using this as a rest period but keeping in mind that, that moment where you do feel like restless or that moment you do feel like you're not being productive, then maybe that's when you have to make some changes and re-examine what you're doing and do those things. Yeah. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Yeah, you gotta recharge. That's all there is to it, and you gotta shut off. You don't have to be stimulated 24/7.
Yeah.
But I came up with some ideas recently for business ideas.
Oh, great.
I bounced them off friends, but none of them. Everyone has been kind of lukewarm to it, and it requires some developing a site. So now I'm taking Udemy classes.
Oh, nice.
I paid $10 for, and trying to learn to like do web development. And it's been tough the last 2 weeks because I've had house guests.
Yeah.
And my computer's in my room that we use for our guests to sleep in. So I haven't been able to like put the kids to sleep and then like do some lessons.
Don't you have a laptop or no?
I do, but the thing is like I like my iMac for it because I'm opening like 2 windows. I'm like I'm looking at the Chrome website.
Yeah.
And then also the actual code.
Oh.
So if I do it on a laptop, I can't flip it back and forth and see. I mean, I can flip it back and forth, but it's not as comfortable to me.
Yeah.
But that's just an excuse too.
You can get another monitor or like a portable monitor or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just an excuse, but I don't know. Maybe this idea is just like stupid and might not do anything, but it'll be very inexpensive for me to test out. At the most I've spent right now is $10 on Udemy.
Yeah.
For a Udemy course that's worth like whatever it is, like $300. And I'm sure I can find like a really inexpensive hosting site and just try it out.
Yeah. We should talk offline about it. I'd be interested to hear about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had 2 ideas, and then we can also talk offline about my wife's idea for stories. I'm not sold on it right now, because it's tough for me to like figure out what I know what she's trying to get at. It's something similar to Hancock. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah,
movie?
I have. Yeah.
And so these 2 souls always being linked together through many iterations.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And there's like another story like that. DC Legends of Tomorrow, Hawk Girl and Hawk Guy or Hawkman.
Oh right, like they had like this reincarnation thing going on or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, yeah.
And they always had to find each other and all this other stuff.
I mean, like I think it was Vonnegut who said there's only a few kind of storylines. I think he mapped out maybe 22, but they're
Yes.
they're
I
all
remember seeing that.
yeah, and that basically that's it, and it's all in the execution, right, and how it's done,
Yeah.
and and making sure there's authenticity and there's honesty and vulnerability in the work, and I mean, one thing to go back on to one of your comments of, so it sounds like you're still learning at this age, and you're in your 40s. I mean, so you can still be productive at any age, I think, right? So I mean, you're example of that, and I'm an example. I'm in my 30s now, and I feel like I haven't even started. So, I mean, like, do you feel that way? Do you feel like you can still be just as productive as, or is it kind of a different level, or it's a different type, or I don't know. And I hate this word productive too. You can still be creative. You can still be imaginative. I guess these are words I like better. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's possible because look at Miyazaki.
Yeah, Miyazaki, great. Yeah,
That guy's never gonna quit.
yeah. He can't stop. Yeah.
Even though he's retired twice already.
Yeah, Scorsese's good, and all these giants.
Yeah, Scorsese's another one. I think Kurosawa was like doing a lot of things up until he died.
Yeah, some of his last works were pretty bomb, like Ran, and he did this thing called Dreams. Yeah.
George Miller? This is George Miller, the guy who did the Mad Max.
Oh yeah, he did he make the new one?
Yeah.
Oh dude, yeah, that Mad Max was dope. Yeah.
So it just depends on who you are.
And also it's kind of like reinventing yourself too, like keep having that backlog of knowledge, but also like having I think being up what's the word, I guess utilizing the new technology or the new things that are available now to help make your life easier, maybe I guess is a way to put it. Yeah. So that's cool, dude. I mean, that sounds like you're yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
As a writer, maybe I should bounce some ideas off of you for some other things for the restaurant. I'm making some branded glasses, like beer glasses.
Yeah.
There's these glasses that are really popular in the microbreweries down here in San Diego.
Yeah.
They look like a beer can, but they're a glass. They're shaped like a beer can. I'll send you a picture of it.
Uh-huh.
And I came up with a slogan for our first one. And I wanted this slogan a long time ago for our t-shirts, but I couldn't convince everyone that it was a good idea. But
yeah.
I have to think up before I make the t-shirts. I want to make like 2 or 3 other slogans.
Yeah. Send me an email. I love that kind of stuff. That's fun, dude.
Yeah, because I remember going to this cafe in Los Feliz. I think it's called. I think it wasn't Little Dom's. It was something else. But they had like all these shirts, like quitters are rehab is for quitters.
Yeah.
And the one I actually purchased, which I don't wear. I think I gave that shirt away, but I should have kept it. It says, "Jesus is our dishwasher," but basically it's Jesus is our dishwasher. It's a little offensive.
It's a little offensive, yeah.
But I thought it was pretty funny. And my dog's about to go nuts because my wife just came home.
Okay, well, maybe we'll just keep it as a short episode today. How about that?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, anything else that you want to talk about, or?
Yeah, you should. Like I said offline, that's my dog. You should definitely go watch I'm Sorry. It's on True TV. I think it's on Amazon.
Okay.
Totally funny. Really well written. Really well executed.
Cool, man. I guess for me, I would say Me and Earl and the Dying Girl is pretty good. I like it. There's some issues. There's some race issues because the Earl's black. I mean, that I'm like okay, it's kind of funny, but it's fine. Like for the most part, I thought that they handled like kind of like the trope of the dying girl or the token black friend, fairly well. The main actor, I thought, could have been a little bit stronger in parts, but overall it was a good movie. What else is a good? Yeah. Also, oh yeah, did you have any language corner or no? Let's see.
I did, but I don't even remember it. I was oh yeah. Here it is. Speaking of grandparents,
Yeah.
my grandfather used to call all the grandkids.
Yeah.
When he was like, I don't know why he did it. He said "shopisan." Shopisan is like a Yangchow slang for little beggar. I don't know where he got. I'm sure he got it from his elders, but he would always call it "shopisan."
Little beggar, and I guess he meant that in a loving way.
I guess so.
Yeah. Little beggars. Oh, okay. Mine for today would be let me find it here. Shigan. Shigan is so I guess it's also it's in where's Yangchow? Is it south or?
It's outside of Shanghai. It's about an hour outside Shanghai.
Oh, so it's kind of like what is that? East. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so Fujian.
The south.
The south. The dialect from there traveled to Taiwan. So Taiwanese. So Shigan is 时间.
Oh.
Yeah, 时间 is time, right? And the phrase is be like koealiao. Okay, I got it. So 时间实在过了真紧。时间 is 时间，实在实在 is 实在，过来真紧很快。时间实在过了很快。时间实在过了真紧。Basically, time really flies.
Right.
Yeah. So. All right, that's all I got. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening, Dan. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing your stories. I mean, that's I guess how's your family handling? I guess after your uncle, I guess they've been taking care of affairs and making sure like people are okay about it, or I guess you can't really ever be okay about that something like that, but.
Yeah, I think for the most part they've started moving on.
Yeah, that's tough, dude. Okay, all right. So yeah, Dan, since you started, you want to sign off first then?
Yeah. So this is Yin, aka Dan, signing off.
And this is Young, aka James, signing off. And thank you so much. All right, I'll see you. Bye. Relationships getting you down. Yin and Young, racism's making you drown. Yin and Young, feeling shame and